Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Polly, and in today's video we're going to be talking about why your inner state matters so much more than your future goals. So if that sounds like your bag, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. And in this space we talk about how to bring yoga off the mat and integrate it and embody it into daily life. Because yoga isn't just something that we do on a mat. It isn't just meditation, breath work, asana, postures, all of these different things that make up the yogic practice, if you like. But yoga is a wisdom. It's a wisdom of the self. It's a homecoming back to our truest nature. It's a union with ourself and the world at whole. What I like to teach in this space, this YouTube space, is how we can start to embody that wisdom and bring it into our daily lives so that we can come back to a deeper sense of self-love, self-acceptance, and acceptance of the world around us at the same time. Presence. So let's get into the topic today. Why is your inner state more important to focus on than your future goals? And the first reason is presence. Okay, this is obviously something us yogis talk about all the time, because essentially what we're doing in the practice of yoga is we sometimes say we move the body to stop the fluctuations of the mind, right? Because it's the mind that takes us anywhere other than the present moment. So the reason that focusing on our inner state is so much more important than focusing on future goals is because future goals are outside of presence. They're in psychological time, which is past and future, and goals are in the future. And presence is right here, right now. And why is it so much more important to focus on presence than it is on our future goals? Well, because essentially we won't ever get to those goals in a whole, healthful, content, anchored way if we are not utilizing the present moment. And that is because when we do get to the goal eventually, if we do get to the goal eventually, whatever that is, whether it's a business goal, a goal at work, a fitness goal, all these different things that we like to set ourselves as humans. When we eventually get to that goal in the future, if we are lucky enough to get to the future, which is not promised to everybody, right? We essentially continuously attach our happiness towards something that is hopefully going to happen for us. Instead of integrating our sense of self into the moment, into life. And really the only place that life exists is right here, right now. And you know that, right? Because you're in it. And it's very much connected to the breath. And the space that we breathe, the only place we breathe is in the moment. And when we're breathing, we're alive. And when we're not breathing, we're not alive. The thing that allows us to recognize where life is, where is the most valuable place to live life, is wherever the breath is. And the breath is here. If we are continuously focusing on our future goals and we're forgetting to breathe in the moment and we're forgetting to embody the moment and we're forgetting to mindfully interact with each task as it comes up in that moment by moment fleeting nature of existence, then we are wishing the moment away. We're attaching ourselves to psychological time, which is past or future. And it's not now. And when we attach ourselves to psychological time, what we're doing essentially is we're attaching ourselves to the mind. Because the mind, the ego, the unobserved mind, is all about time. It's run on time. And I'm not talking about clock time as such. I'm talking about this recognition of the future and the holding on to the past, both of which spaces only exist because we've created a narrative out of them, right? The narrative is, in 5 years' time, I wish to be this person. In 5 years' time, I want my business to be here. In 5 years' time, I want my fitness goals to be like this. And essentially what we're doing when we're continuously focusing on these goals, even in a week's time or in a month's time or something less than 5 5 years. And I'm saying 5 years because bloody hell, when you go for a job interview and they ask that question, well, what are you going to be doing in 5 years' time? I don't have a fucking clue, love, because I don't know. The future isn't promised to anybody. Please don't ask me that question, right? It's the worst question. Anyway, that question aside, when we're continuously focusing on what might happen in the future and how can we get there? How can we project our energy to something in this psychological timed future? We are taking our energy out of the moment. Okay, so essentially we are attaching our happiness, we're attaching our security, we're attaching our life to something that's a fixation of the mind, because it's not really there, is it, yet? It's not promised to anyone. So instead of continuously focusing on what is going to happen in the future, if we bring our energy back into our inner state and focus on the breath, and take some conscious breaths and integrate ourselves back into the moment and do one job at a time, we have the ability to be able to align ourselves to nature's flow, to our own true essence, which naturally aligns us to life and brings us into those future goals with more integrity, more purpose, more energy, and more flow. So that's why it's really important to utilize presence first and foremost. Goals in the future take us out of presence and bring us into psychological time, and bringing ourselves back to presence allows us to focus on our inner state and what it needs right now. And when we really water that inner state, that present state, if you like, we have the energy to be able to slowly chip away at our goals from a more wholesome space. Okay, so that's the first thing. It allows us to bring ourselves back to the present moment, which really is the only place that life exists. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that goals are bad things and we shouldn't be having any goals. Goals are really important because that cognitive awareness adds focus and direction to the soul. Our ability to be able to set a goal, it gives us a little bit of accountability, right? It allows us to go, right, this is the direction that I might go down. But instead of getting attached to that goal, if we're continuously projecting our energy to the future, instead of getting attached to that goal and going, okay, so I must have that goal, otherwise I'm not going to be happy. I must have that goal, otherwise I'm a failure, or I must focus on these goals, or I'm feeling unworthy or unvaluable as I am right now in my space in presence. It's just about becoming aware of if we are continually taking our energy away from the present moment and taking it into psychological time, which doesn't actually exist. It only exists in the mind. Presence is the first reason why it's more important to look after your inner state than it is to continuously take your awareness towards goals in the future. The second thing I wanted to talk about is energy. There's a little saying in energy healing, if you like. Something that I teach is Kundalini Yoga, and it's very much about the movement and transformation of energy alchemy, we might call it. And there's a little saying that we say in energy healing, and I think it's pretty cheesy: where our attention goes, our energy flows. Yeah, it sounds cheesy, it sounds cliche, but it's very, very true. Where we place our attention is exactly where our energy is going to flow to. So let's say, for example, we are ruminating on something in the past. Yeah, we're ruminating on a story, something that might have happened in the past that we are struggling to let go of. So we are continuously feeding this narrative that we've held on to from the past. Our energy is going to be sent back there. And therefore, we've got this really strong energetic cord that's sort of weighing us down from the past. And that's what that little saying means: where our attention goes, our energy flows. So if we are continuously replaying this narrative, this story of maybe why we're not worthy enough in the present moment, this is one of my own narratives, so I'm just giving an example, why we might not be worthy enough in the present moment because of what X, Y, and Z happened in the past, right? That's a narrative that has been held on to, that has been dragged like big, heavy lead weights from the past into the present. We haven't let go of it, and therefore we keep sending our energy back to the past. So that's the first law of energy work, is where our attention goes, our energy flows. So when we're talking about why it's more important to look after our inner state than our goals, the same thing's happening with the future. If we are always thinking about what can I do tomorrow, what can I do in 2 weeks' time, God forbid what I can do in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we're taking our energy battery and we are putting it in psychological time in the future. And so therefore we've depleted our energy battery in the now moment, right? We're just sort of like taking ourselves out of the moment, taking our energy outside of our body, and it's just becoming very consumed by the mind in psychological time. The mind, the ego, the unobserved mind, which is what the ego is, it's not a bad thing, right? It's not a good thing, it's just a thing. Essentially brings form into our earthly living conditions. But if we don't observe the mind, it can really run our life in that sense, and it can take up a lot of energy, right? If we're always concerned about sending our energy back to the past, ruminating on that reason why we can't be worthy, for example, in this present state because of this narrative that we're still attached to from the past, our energy is going to get drained into that space. Same with goals. If we're continuously taking our energy out of our inner state, that beautiful presence of life that's moving through us right now, you and me, what a blessing. If we're continuously taking it into the future and going, how can I get there? How can I get to that next step? I'm not worthy here. I need the next thing. I need the next thing. I need the next thing. That's just the ego wanting to achieve more and more and more. And there's nothing wrong with achieving. That's not what I'm saying. But there is something that's going to cause suffering if that achievement becomes a lack of energy in the moment and reinforces our happiness and our stability and our worthiness and our value to somewhere other than being whole right here, right now. So that's the second thing, and it's energy. So the first thing is presence. The second thing is energy. Our energy, we can't do anything without our energy. Energy management is so important. And if you want to work with energy management tools on a regular basis, I have a community. We work with Kundalini Yoga. It's a fabulous tool for aligning your energy back to the present moment, right? So you've got more energy to do the things that you want to do. This is where life is abundant. So if you want to learn more about managing your own energy, bringing your energy back to yourself in presence, then you're more than welcome to join our community. There's a link below and you get a load of time free in there. So go ahead and no strings attached. Presence and energy are two reasons why it's so important to look after your inner self more so than your goals. Because again, this is the only place that life exists. So if we can keep reining our energy back into the moment, back into ourself, back into our body, we will have more energy to do what it is we want to do, right? Or to be what it is we want to be. Let's move on to the next thing. So the third reason why it's so much more important to look after your inner self and the state of your inner landscape compared to continuously focused on your goals is because what's happening outside your external life, if you like, is a direct reflection of what's happening on the inside. And that's quite obvious, it's quite self-explanatory. You might have recognized that happening when it comes to things like if you felt unhealthy at some point, if you felt unhealthy or you felt down emotionally or you felt mentally not quite there and unstable, etc. When you start to suffer with mental health or emotional health or physical health in any way, shape or form, you then recognize, don't you? Because we've all struggled. Well, I'm saying this very presumptively, but many of us, if you like, have suffered with these things, right? We're humans. So we do have struggles that we have to overcome and work through. And when we do struggle with some of these things, it really is a big reflection, isn't it? Because we start to actually physically feel or mentally experience or emotionally experience, actually the world around us starts to crumble slightly when we are not centered from within ourselves. And when our inner state is feeling unanchored and insecure and not rooted, not grounded, and we feel like we're all over the shop in our mind, etc. When that's happening in our internal state, our external state becomes a complete reflection of that, right? I'm sure you've experienced it before. I definitely have many, many, many times. And I always experience that the way in which I am centered inside of my own self, my ability to be able to be present and watch and observe my mind and watch and observe my emotions, not get too involved with them, and feel physically healthful, being kind to myself, etc. All of those things reflect in my outer life. They reflect in my business. They reflect in how I treat myself, how I eat, how I interact with people, etc. Maybe you've experienced the same. So that's why it's more important to focus on your inner landscape than it is on your future goals. Because there's no such thing as future goals if our now state is totally misaligned and we aren't feeding our aliveness in the moment. Okay, the final thing that I want to talk about is overwhelm. Now, if we're continuously focusing on future goals and we are forgetting to just be in the moment, take a couple of conscious breaths, look after our inner state, ask ourselves how we're feeling, taking a moment to rest and listen and respond to that. If we're not doing that and we're continuously worrying about what do I need to grasp from the future and how can I bring it into now as quick as possible, if we're continuously doing that, which is a big state of the human ego, right, of which we all have, then we're going to get hugely overwhelmed. And that overwhelm is then going to feed our mental space. We're not going to be able to integrate into our body as easily. And again, we're going to become uprooted from the moment and taken off into psychological time, which doesn't exist because the only place that exists is right here, right now. Right? Ask a cat. You see those little cats and they're just flipping around all over the shop, acting crazy, and really they're just being very integrative of the present moment. Overwhelm is one of the biggest things that happens if you're continuously trying to grasp at the future. And it makes you go, oh no, how can I actually get to that space? I don't feel like I've got the tools, I don't feel like I've got the resources, I don't feel like I've got the skills or the talents right now. Because maybe we haven't got the resources, maybe we haven't got the tools or the skills or the talents right now. And maybe we need to just take one step at a time and feed that tiny little step instead of sort of overwhelm ourselves and focus on the whole staircase. There's a fantastic book by Anne Lamott and it's called Bird by Bird, which really does talk about just taking one little step at a time, right? We don't need to write the whole book, just focusing on something in the moment that really captures our attention and inspires us to put pen to paper in that moment and write just a sentence or a very, very small paragraph. To avoid overwhelm, it's really important to come back to the moment, focus on our inner state, focus on finding security and stability in our energy system, focus on finding presence, focus on mindfully doing one task at a time. Even if that's the washing up, how can we start to integrate our energy and our joy into mindfully washing up, then moving on to the next task after that? And what tends to happen is we tend to focus more on our inner state and presence is we complete jobs with more integrity. We do less, but we do it with more quality, and we enjoy what we do a lot more. And when we enjoy what we do a lot more, essentially our goals tend to look after themselves, right? Because aligning to the moment aligns us to the frequency of life. And the frequency of life is the only place that anything actually starts to come into vision. Okay, my friends, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this little session. Really lovely to have you here. Lots of love. Like and subscribe. Ciao for now. Hi guys, thanks for watching that video with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. If you would like to watch any more videos, there's 2 here just for you.